Hello and welcome to Ascend's latest Aviation 2020 video blog. This week I'm delighted to introduce our Head of Valuations and Appraisal Services, Weal, who will be giving his seasoned view on the current state of the market. So Les, what are your thoughts?
Well, I'm often asked if there's any good news out there in the marketplace, and to be candid, no is the answer I give. Because unless you've got an aviation storage facility somewhere in the deserts of the United States, I don't see any areas of growth this year. I think this morning the announcement by Singapore Airlines they were laying down 17 aircraft is a stark reminder of how bad things are getting for the airline industry. And to be candid, the only way they're going to address the shortcomings is to reduce capacity, to balance that more in line with the demand and to minimise yield erosion. Singapore is often viewed as a bit of a bellwether for the industry, and I expect other airlines to follow suit in the coming months as they try to balance their supply and demand. I mean, to date, the wide-body market's been pretty resilient, but I think this is indicative that the forces that have began to impact the narrow-body sector are now playing out into the wide-body sector as well.
And how's the demand side of the industry holding up generally?
Well, clearly, most of the world's economies are now in recession or very close to it. That, coupled with the lack of business and confidence in the consumer market, is impacting demand. And of course it's being compounded for the airlines by the fact that the businessman is no longer travelling as well, so premium traffic is particularly being impacted by this current slowdown. The other thing which is a bit puzzling, and there's a bit of a barroom economist I'm having trouble getting my head around, is the way some of these airline executives in Europe are claiming that their business is inelastic and that their demand for holidays won't be impacted by the slowdown. I'm not sure that their argument is totally sound. The argument being that consumers, whilst they may cut back on capital goods and things like this, that means that the guy who sells the capital goods can't take his holidays. So I don't really see that that is an argument that really holds true.
And what's happening on the supply side with new deliveries?
Well, the utterances from the two major manufacturers seem to be at a variance from a lot of other people's views on the market. I think you can't really ignore the likes of Steve Harsey from RLFC, Bernard Grabowski at DVB and Chris Tarry, all of whom said that this industry has too many aircraft entering the market this year. Yes, there is a reason for RLFC to want values to hold up, given that they're trying to sell the company, but clearly these guys have years of experience and recognise that there's too many aircraft coming into the market.
What's your view on the perceived gap in funding for this year?
Yeah, it's an interesting statement there at the moment. A lot of people say you're seeing a flight to quality. I also think you're seeing a bit of a flight to loyalty as well. The banks who are committed to funding the industry this year are offering favoured status to their clients who've been with them for many years. So what money is available is going to these guys first in the marketplace. The other issue, and maybe it's an oversimplification, but some of the deferrals we're seeing and the delays through the Boeing strike, coupled with the very conservative loan-to-value ratios, means that maybe the funding gap may not be quite as large as people envisaged. We're now hearing loan-to-values as low as 50%, and this obviously is going to impact on the amount of debt that's in the marketplace. And the other thing I think a lot of people do forget is there's the refinancing of second-hand equipment as well. It's not just 1,000 aircraft that are entering the market this year. There's an awful lot of used equipment which they're financing to come into them this year, and people are looking to refinance them. Again, we're hearing very conservative numbers on very young pieces of equipment, all of which is decreasing the market values of aircraft.
And what's your latest insight on values and lease rates?
Well, clearly, lease rates are declining quite quickly, albeit that you have to be very wary when you see some of these headline numbers associated with lease rates. In the short term, lease rates can go to very low rates, but often they're for very short-term leases. And these lessors' business models aren't really impaired if they place aircraft out on lease for very short periods. Market values clearly are coming down, and latest details that we've had and opinions from sales we've seen in the marketplace suggest that brand new A320s and Boeing 737-800 are difficult to get a number beginning with a 4. Some 20-25% down from where we were seeing numbers in early 2008.
Thanks very much, Les. Any concluding thoughts?
Yeah, just as I started this little chat with question about what was asked most often. The other two most frequently questions I was asked is when will we reach the bottom of the market, and what will the upside be when we do recover? The first one, I don't think that any of us can truly identify when the bottom of the market will be, and it's an oversimplification, but clearly we will only know that once we've passed it. I think if you're going to enter the market, you need to do it in a drip feed fashion, rather than try and identify a particular month. In terms of what will the upside be, again, another $64,000 question. My view is that the next upside will not be as high as what we recently experienced. I think the conservatism that we've seen in the banking sector will still prevail when we come to the top of the market, whenever that may be, and I think this will keep a cap on values. Indeed, there's an argument that we're having internally about whether there is a 20-year cycle in this business, which oversees the 10-year business cycle we normally associate with this industry. Anyway, that's a thought for another occasion, perhaps.